everybody. This is Hunter Marckwardt, your host for Impactful Thoughts. I've got Allen Huggins today. Allen, how are we, brother?
I'm great, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's an interesting time right now. We're doing this on April 15th. It's tax day.
Yeah.
We got a bunch of stuff going on in the world. We got a bunch of stuff going on in our country. We got a bunch of stuff going on as it relates to what we do for work.
Yeah.
I thought it would be great to talk real estate.
Yeah.
We try to stick with themes on sales and leadership and structure and organization, but at the same time, you're a realtor, so we'll focus on that a little bit more on this, which super interesting to me on the lending side of things, because anytime I have the opportunity to talk to a highly successful realtor to understand, your mindset, I think that's such an important part of it, is all of us understanding each other's, the other side of the equation. So you being as successful as you've been, as long as you've been in real estate, what do you think are a few things? I want people to be able to watch us say, like, kind of question, am I doing what Allen is talking about compared to Allen or not? So, like, what would be a few things that you think, not just with you, but other successful realtors, what do they do that other realtors that aren't successful don't do?
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to just diligence. There's so many, our industries, but as well as anybody, right? I mean, it's hearing no more than you hear yes, typically. And I think you've got to have that tough skin and the diligence to push through it. And I think a lot of realtors, especially, they just give up. In the market that we've seen, I think the stat I saw from NAR is we're down 35% in number of real estate agents right now. That's a pretty hefty number. And I think a lot of that is just that, just having the diligence to stick through it, because you're going to hear no a ton. And if you can consistently push through till you get those yeses, that's where it's at. And I grew up playing sports. I grew up not wanting to disappoint my coach or my parents or whatever. That was just kind of my mindset, and honestly kind of has been still to this day. So I think a lot of it is just that diligence of pushing through and seeing it through to get the yeses.
Got it. How do you do that? I mean, like, if you
Mindset.
Huh?
I'm an eternal optimist, right? So I think every market is a good market in a sense, right? So for me, it's a lot of activity based. I know that if I make 75 outbound sales calls every week, if I see 10 of my VIPs every week, if I see 5 new clients every week, if I do those simple things every single week, week in and week out, the good things are going to happen, right? And I have, trust me, I'm not positive all the time. I do have my moments of self-doubt and negative self-talk. But I have certain things on my board. I've got a whiteboard right in front of me that I look at constantly. One of the things that you said to me a long time ago was comparison is the thief of joy. And I think a lot of times when I get negative in my self-talk, it is comparing myself to others. And I see that quote and I just think, you know what? I'm not comparing myself to others. Keep your head down, do the work. It'll all come to fruition. And I firmly believe that. I really do. If you do the right things day in and day out, the right things are going to happen.
I think it also builds confidence, right? By the way, I'm not
100%.
the originator. I think that was Teddy Roosevelt that actually termed that quote. But for what it's worth, to your point, and I wish people understood this, like, a lack of confidence comes when you quit, right? And when you don't do things, where when you're on the other side of, first of all, you get hit with some level of rejection. It's okay. But you also, when you break through it on the other side of it, you just have the confidence of going to work every day, and you take the emotions out of it, so you don't have to determine whether or not you're having a good day or a bad day to go get your job done. Is that fair?
Oh, 100%. That's very fair. I think that if you can take it away from results based, I mean, the results are going to happen one way or the other, but if you can take it somewhat away from results based on a day-to-day basis, your mindset will be far better in the long run than it would be otherwise.
Yeah. One thing, you're Tennessee, I'm California. What are you doing right now? The market is, I mean, call it off, whatever term you want to use right now. How do you stay, and not just how do you stay, how do you get other people to stay focused when there's so much negativity, confusion. I mean, I think people enjoy just, you know, the watershed, their water cooler negative talk, right? I mean, most people veer towards that. How do you stay consistent with a message of home ownership right now?
We talk about noise a lot. Like we talk about the noise, whether positive or negative, right? And we talk about it a lot and saying, hey, here's the message through the noise, right? The message right now that we're sharing with people is even if we are going into recession, right? In 8 of the last 9 recessions, real estate prices have been up. The only different one being '08, and that was because it was obviously mortgage based and real estate based. But every other recession from before then and since then has been real estate prices have been up. I also believe that there's a lot of fear in the market, as I know you know very well. And so, for our buyers out there that are concerned about whether it's rates or prices or whatnot, Nashville's been very fortunate. We've been on an upward swing since 2012. So, what are we going on? 13 years of a positive market. Most indicators would tell you we're due for a price drop, right? But if you look at our prices as opposed to maybe some parts of California, we didn't see 30 and 40% spikes in 21 and 22 or 2021, 22 and all that. So we saw 20% spikes, right? So whereas we didn't see quite the big up, we're not going to see the big down. And that's been pretty consistent in our market. So I use the historical data a lot to just talk people through, hey, I was a part of this market in '08, between '08 and 2010, when it was horrible. It was painful for a lot of people. This is not that, right? Prices are not all of a sudden going to drop 10, 15, 20%. At least I don't believe they will. I do firmly believe that Nashville is such a diverse economy that, you know, we're going to stay steady at worst and realistically grow a little bit as far as prices are concerned. So I use that historical data a lot. And honestly, you and I have been in this business long enough that we, you know, we have a little gray, as they say, right? You know, we've got that experience to tell people, hey, man, you know, I've been here, done that. You know, I made it through '08 and I made it through all that jazz. And this isn't it. This isn't that. I mean, I've got 2 clients I literally talked to this morning, had that exact conversation.
So I think it's important to, when you talk about data, like historical data, I mean, the fact is it's real, right? Like someone, you know, I don't know if you've seen that chart where it talks about like, if you go back 10 years, what type of appreciation homes have had since like 1945. And it stops obviously in 2015. So you need 2026 to come before we can add the next year. But I mean, I want to say it's 5 years out of, I don't know, 60 or 70 years that are on this, on appreciation existing in real estate. So I think for everybody, sometimes you got to take your emotional hat off and look at the numbers. And you also just have to look at why are you buying, right? Like, why are you buying in the first place? So I want to talk about like not if you do coach. When you're coaching realtors that are in the frame of mind right now, like literally, like what are tactics that you give them to stay focused to get homes sold?
Yeah, a lot of it is overcoming the objection, right? There's, you know, our friend Josh always talks about there's 5 different objections, and it always comes down to one of those 5. So what I really coach my students on right now, I've got a few realtors who are really struggling with just conversion, just straight conversion. And so it's really setting that expectation in that initial meeting of really getting deep into their why. Like, why are you purchasing? Are you having a baby? Are you getting married? Are you, you know, you've got a promotion, whatever it is, or, hey, I just want a bigger house, you know, like what is that true purpose for you buying? Because to what you just said a minute ago, if we can consistently come back to that each and every time, we can overcome those objections pretty easily. So Hunter, you said that you guys are having a baby, you know, do you not want a bigger house? You want to just stay where you are right now? Or what, you know, is that your true motivation at this point? So I'm really working with my students on the front end of our process is missed by so many, right? So on the front end, with whether buyer or seller, everybody talks about listings. Well, yeah, you meet with each client in a listing because you go to their house and you walk through it and with a buyer, I'd be willing to bet 90% of the realtors out there do not have a formal buyer presentation. They have a listing presentation, but they don't have a buyer presentation. And that has been paramount to our conversion ratio over the last 6-7 years since we've implemented it. Because we get on the same page and we tell everybody, hey, we want to spend 30 to 45 minutes with you just to show you through the process and just get on the same page. And that's where we talk about expectation.
Why don't you think realtors do that? Why don't
They're
they have
anxious. They're so anxious to get them in the car and just get to showing them houses. And two, so many realtors do not treat this as a job, as a true profession. We like to talk about at Impact about you are a business owner. You're not a realtor. You're not a lender. You are a business owner. And I think that's the mindset that so many lenders have that so many realtors lack. The realtors that we have found that have that mindset are some of your biggest realtors throughout the country because they treat it like a business. They run a P&L, they run a team, and it's not that to be successful, you have to run a team, but even if you're a single person and you do a 20-minute team meeting with yourself, right? Where you just sit down every morning for 5 minutes, 20 minutes, however long it takes, and just go through each deal and write your checklist. Simple stuff like that will put you on the right path to treating it as a true business and being a business owner.
Do you have a process for everything?
Yes, I have to. I get lost. I get lost so quickly.
Okay, so what does that mean? Like, I mean, like the process for, I'm like annoyed with myself because like I've got some people that are gonna be out. I've got someone out on maternity leave. And I'm like, I don't have the processes. Actually, here's what's actually annoying for me. Maybe people can relate to this. It's not that I don't have the processes. I don't necessarily know where to find them. I don't know where to find them because I'm not looking at them all the time, which is a mistake. So you have process, you look at process. Where is it, by the way, just for my own personal knowledge so I can grow from it? Where do you house your processes?
Yeah, so we have everything on a Google Drive. Everybody on the team has access to the Google Drive. That has everything from our ops manual to sales, break down how it works. The biggest thing, though, when it comes to processes, as far as what you're talking about, is like Rachel, my director of ops, went out of town for a week about a couple months ago. And she and I sat down for about 30 minutes right before she left. And literally, I had everything in a row to where I could run the team meetings. I could sit for an hour to an hour and a half every day and just kind of get the basics done of each transaction that we had in process. But it was very easy because, again, if I don't have time structure and then the structure of knowing what I'm supposed to be doing, I get lost and then I get frustrated and then I get pissed off. And then it just spirals into not very good space.
The reason I want to be, I mean, like for me, it's like the emotions, it's the difference between following the process versus getting emotional about it, right?
Yeah, totally.
When you don't know where to find stuff or you don't have stuff created, you get emotional, then your head locks up and you can't think and then you get pissed off and then nothing happens, right?
I resemble that way too much.
Yeah, okay, got it. And I don't know if you just always had it in you, but like if you look like again, I'm always like to think of like people listening to this that are in the mindset of like, I don't know what to do, I don't know where to go. Like, did you have any like mind shift changes when you either started getting coached in the first place? Like, were you ever not succeeding in this business where if you took a look at like all of a sudden where you just like you had some growth point in your career, like what happened? Like what was the shift where you went, oh, I got this?
Yeah, there were two just that come to mind off the top of my head. The first was one of my very first coaches. She was adamant that I get uncomfortable, right? Do things that make me uncomfortable, not go crazy or, go jump off a bridge or something like that. But, do something that just makes you uncomfortable, whether it's go knock on somebody's door. I'll never forget, there was a former player for the Tennessee Titans who his wife knew my mom. And so they were trying to sell their house. And I went and knocked on his door after it expired. I was terrified. I mean, heart thumping, like shaking, knocking the door. Like it was awful. But when it was over, he answered the door. We had this great conversation. He ended up saying, hey, we just took it off the market for a little while. We're going to go back with our old realtor. But I walked away from that going, he didn't kill me. He didn't chew me out.
He could have.
He could, right. He could have done all of that. And he didn't. And it's like, okay, I'm building this up. So that's the first one that was a big mindset shift, because after that happened, then I started really pushing to do things that I always kind of thought to myself, well, that might not work in my market, or I don't really want to know the result if that goes bad, right? And never thought about what if it goes really well, right? The second one was more recent, and that was from all the goal setting that we did this year through Impact, and really shifting the mindset shift away from results and towards activity. And what I've noticed is that I'm extremely more productive now than I ever was prior to joining Impact. And you and I went through coaching through another program for many years. And even my time during that, I look at that and go, gosh, if I'd known now what I know, or known then what I know now, I don't know where I would be. I mean, everything happens for a reason, obviously, but those are the two biggest ones. And I think that the mindset shift of activity based has really helped me to focus on not just my real estate practice. I've got a property management group. I've got a development company, and I've got a couple other little things that I'm invested in or just involved in. And it's a mindset that somebody taught me called like feed the wheel, right? So you and I remember the wheel of life. And it's like every conversation, every relationship you have feeds that wheel in some way, shape, or form. So if I take that activity-based mindset and less on results and just understand that I want to get to know you, Hunter. I want to listen to you and what you want to achieve, what you want to accomplish. It has made the last, quite frankly, 18 months just so much more enjoyable because I'm not as concerned about the results and more on the activity, because I know that if I do the right activity and I'm asking for business when I need to ask for it, it's going to come.
I wrote down,
and it's making a much, yeah, sorry.
I wrote it down. Activity-based mindset feeds the wheel.
Yeah. Yeah. And every relationship feeds the wheel negatively or positively, right? So if I find somebody that's feeding my wheel negatively, it's given me permission to just say, moving on, cross that person off the list.
And also lack of activity doesn't feed the wheel, it stops it.
Yes. 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 Right? That's exactly right. Yeah.
So I love that.
Yeah. It's been fun.
You just gave me my thing. So thank you.
Love it.
Let's go to relationship between realtors and lenders, which I would love. What do you wish every lender understood about working with someone like you?
We appreciate honesty more than you know. We know you can't get every deal done. I think the biggest thing, and one of the things you and I talked about earlier is a question of like, what is something that one lender said that made me think I will never use anybody else? And that is a guy that told me he couldn't get a deal done, right? 30 days prior to what we were set to close, he does all the stuff. He does everything you do as far as just getting them pre-approved and everything. He calls me and he says, Allen, this one's tight, but I'm just going to tell you right now, I don't think I can get it done. Cool. I appreciate the honesty. I still use that guy to this day, and he did that probably 8 years ago. Stuff like that means so much more to somebody like me, because the last thing we want, as I know you guys want, is for something to happen a week before closing and it just blows up the whole thing.
So transparency, honesty.
Yeah, honesty. Just simple, simple. Because
give me a few more. I'm going to go both sides of it. I'm going to say, what is something that like guarantees that you have a successful relationship and you'll never talk to him again?
If all you talk to me about is product, I'm typically not listening, right? If you come into me and you say, Allen, I want to learn about your business, I'll give you 30 minutes, right? If you come into me, say, hey, I'm at Cross Country Mortgage and I want to talk to you about this product we've got, I'm not typically going to talk to you. The guys that we use on a very regular basis, they typically know that we work in a fairly luxury market. Our average price point is above $1 million. So anything that's FHA or first-time home buyer, that's just typically not us. We will occasionally get that kind of deal, but it's very rare nowadays. So if you come at me with your new 2-1 buy down or something like that, I just kind of cross you off the list. But if you go into a relationship, because it needs to be that, right? If you go into a new relationship wanting to learn about them as a person, learn about them as a business, I just think that's the reason I will take more meetings with you and eventually send you business. I had a gentleman who I think is a lender here in town that we use. And quite frankly, he came to me and started asking me about Georgia football. He's a rabid UT fan, but he asked me about Georgia football. He knows I'm a big Georgia football fan. I'm a Georgia grad. And I took the meeting and we've had a blast. We've worked together now for 6 or 7 years. And the first thing he did was he sent me, it's actually back over here. He sent me a little Georgia helmet, one of those little mini helmets. And it sits on my desk. It's still here to this day. But it was probably a $20 gift that he sent me after our first meeting. And I was like, man, that's pretty stinking cool,
Is it a nice helmet?
Is it a what?
A nice helmet?
No, it's this little plastic helmet.
I want
It's
to.
literally one of these little plastic helmets. Just got the Georgia G on it.
All right, I took my son to the University of Oregon to visit for his 10th birthday, and that little helmet right there cost me like $100. Pretty wild.
Well, this was 7, 8 years ago, pre-inflation and all that. You know.
Okay, got it. So ask questions.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Ask questions.
I literally, I mean, I'm laughing a little bit here because I've got something on my right corner that says my computer's about to restart. I hope that doesn't happen. But I was doing a class this morning. We were talking about like I was talking to some buyers on Friday, and I actually got the gal to cry because I finally just said, like, why don't, she was so worried about buying right now and selling her other house. And I just said, why don't we just get out a T-chart and start asking some questions to help you formalize whether or not it's not my decision. It's not, I mean, let's just look at the pros and the cons and see what makes sense, and it was like, I'm going to just start doing that every, like, after I got done, now I'm just going to coach on it. I mean, it's like, but the point to everybody listening is you have to ask a question. Like every single thing, I'm listening to some like crazy high level CEO stuff for these guys that have, multi-billion-dollar businesses to you and me talking on individual real estate deals. It's like, it always comes back to listening.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's like, if you don't, because one of the things I wanted to ask you too, like I used to be, I used to do this where I'd show up, hey, Alan, I'm the top producer in my county, whatever. Is that interesting to you?
No,
No,
none.
Right? Don't brag about your numbers.
Yeah. I had a guy come up to me the other day. He's a financial advisor, and he said, "Hey, I hear you're a big Preds fan and a big Titans fan." And I was like, "Okay, I'm listening." Like he knows I love sports, and he's like, "So who's been your favorite player since?" And I said, "Well, listen, the Preds started when I was a senior in high school, so I like And then we started this conversation, and he didn't come in with, "Hey, I'm the number one producer at XYZ Mortgage." Like he just came in with, "Hey, I hear you're a big Preds fan." Like, yeah, I am. We had season tickets for a long
Everybody
time.
listening has to understand, you bragging about your numbers is an insecurity. It's not a confidence builder for the person that's on the other end.
That is 100% right.
How does truly, how does a new lender, if you say it's not possible because my lender's so great, but how would a new lender get an appointment with you?
Asking about learning. My vision, my why right now is really to help other people. I mean, obviously what we're doing at Impact, I want to kind of take the knowledge that I've learned over 20 plus years of doing this business and share it with others and hopefully see other people grow. There's nothing in our world like seeing somebody break through some glass ceilings and stuff like that. And so if a young lender calls me and says, "Hey, I got referred to you by Hunter Marckwardt, and I'd love to hear about your business and just talk to you about what I can be doing to get through in this business," I'd take that meeting in a heartbeat.
Would you give them an opportunity or her?
That it depends. It just depends. If we get something a little bit of a lower price point because our clientele is a little bit more seasoned, then I would probably give them a shot, but not on one of our bigger ones. Now, they get a couple years in the business, different story.
Do you think your existing lender,
Uh-oh.
Yep.
There you are. Got you now.
I'm
thought you shut down for a second.
I thought it shut down too. Second here.
Okay.
Let's see here. Oh, we back. I think we're back.
I got you. Sweet.
I told you. That's crazy.
I know. As soon as you froze up, I was like, "Oh crap! Here we go."
They're gonna cut it out. Where was I?
Existing lenders.
What was I?
All I heard was, "Do you think you're existing lenders?" And then it went boop.
Oh, do you think that your existing lenders, and do you think they genuinely believe that do they act like you are handing them your livelihood on a silver platter? Do they still act like you have a question? Because I talk about it all the time, right? And I'm guilty of always doing it. I mean, I work with some of the greatest realtors in the market, right? And I'm like, I didn't call them back for a few hours or something. You know what I mean? Like where if it's my first opportunity with them, they would have, so, and I think people forget. I guess my point, Alan, is new lenders, anybody that's trying to get into any business, when you're hungry and thirsty for an opportunity, if you keep presenting yourself in a place where you can get that opportunity, someone above you is going to fall off because they've lost their appreciation for the opportunities for their existing relationship. Fair?
Yeah, it's so interesting you say that because I was just thinking about this on Friday, and one of the lenders that we've used for a long time, he does a great job, always has, and he always sends me a thank you card. But in the last 6 months, I've noticed that the thank you card is written by his assistant. And it hasn't, I haven't moved on from him at all at this point, but it was just that thought when it came to me the first time. I was like, man, his handwriting's gotten really good, you know? But it was also the other lender that we use pretty exclusively. You know, he not only calls me as soon as, you know, as soon as we send the referral, hey, just wanted to say thank you for sending Hunter and his family. But then he sends me a postcard or a thank you card. And he's got just horrible chicken scratch. Half the time I can't read it, but it's, what is it? The thought that counts, right? I know he took the time out of his day to physically write that thank you card. And that means a lot to me. So the other lender that we use pretty religiously, he not only calls me after I send him the referral and just saying, hey, thank you for sending Hunter and his family, but he sends me, you know, this thank you card, and it's literally chicken scratch. I can barely read it half the time because his handwriting's so poor. But it means a lot more to me that he's physically taking the time out of his day than the guy just handing a card to his assistant going, hey, write Huggins a thank you card. It's like, come on, man, just take 2 minutes and write me a damn card.
Wouldn't you? I've got to believe that he's way better off not having written you a card at all, as opposed to
100%.
having someone else write it for him.
100%. Couldn't agree more.
I'd fire him on the spot. Honest to God, if it's like, if you've now decided, and this is where I think people actually need to listen to us, like, if you've actually decided that what you're doing here, I'm so efficient that I've absolutely lost my gratitude for the opportunity to deal with Allen. So I'm going to fake a handwritten letter to him and have my assistant do it.
Yeah.
Honestly, Allen, I probably know the guy. I would fire him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I'd tell him why you're firing him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Help him out.
It is interesting because I just think that I got out of the habit of writing thank you cards, but I never delegated it, you know? And now that I've gotten back into it, it's interesting to hear the feedback of people being like, hey man, you took, thank you for that card. Like, you didn't have to do that. It's like, I know, but I really appreciate you and want you to know that. But.
And it also has to do with, like, I mean, everyone has to remember what it's like when you're on the other side of gratitude, right? It's one thing to be the giver of the gratitude. It's another thing to be the recipient of it. And when I got a gal that lives on my street, I give her a couple of referrals. Every time I do, a handwritten note of this, you know, I mean, and it's like, she's knocking on the door. It's not like she's just checking a box. She cares, you know, and I think all of us, especially in this kind of an environment where we're differentiating ourselves, right? We talk about like what uncommoditized ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's the gratitude that people feel or don't feel in doing business with, right?
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. I think that we've, you know, during the process, we've gifted more. We do thank you cards, you know, handwritten thank you cards. We send little gifts on their 1 year, 5 year, and every, you know, 5 year anniversaries. It's a little cookie thing, but you know, it's little stuff like that that just, you know, shows you care. And you know, Annabelle, my director of marketing, she's the one that does all that, and she forces me to write thank you cards for every single one of these. So like this yesterday, I sat down and wrote 4 thank you cards for people just saying, hey, happy 1 year anniversary. So excited for you and your house, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, yeah, it takes 10 minutes to do it, but it's 10 minutes well spent.
Yeah. And by the way, to like the new people listening too, it's like, if someone is, I think it's a fun game to play. If you're trying to call on bigger people, you treat them better than the people that they currently do business with treat them. Yeah. Right? So that is a handwritten thank you note for taking my phone call. It leaves a little more of an impression, right? Yeah. It's an opportunity to say hi to them in person at a broker store, at an open house. Hey, I don't want to bug you, but I knew I had the opportunity to at least see, like, I wanted to just put a face with a name and vice versa. I'm Hunter, right? Really appreciate the time you gave me on the phone. At some point, I know we're going to work together, so I figure I might as well say hi to you, right?
I love that.
Those types of things, right?
Yeah, I love that.
It's not
those little things.
Like for new people, I mean, because like I think everybody wants this magic pill, and no, there's no magic pill. but you have to be in a place to get the opportunity to meet with someone. And to your point, which I wrote down here, as I said, action-based mindset feeds the wheel, right?
That's right.
The action is all of these things that then feeds the wheel to the opportunity to meet with or work with an Allen Huggins or a Hunter Marckwardt or some, big financial advisor or whatever it is.
But
So,
you also never know what opportunity that's going to present, right? So if you, as a new agent or as a new lender, come to me and you're genuine about wanting to learn about my business and this, that, and the other, and then I hire another young realtor, and the realtor says, "Well, where do I start getting business?" And I go, "Well, just start getting out in the community and meeting people." "Well, who should I meet?" "Well, hey, go meet this new lender, Hunter. He seemed really active and proactive, so go meet him." You never know when an opportunity like that is going to present itself, and it wouldn't have done so had you not done those little things to make an impact.
Yep. And I'm still going to go back to the fact that whoever the main person isn't doing their job if you don't think that you should be referring to your new person to that person. You know what I mean? Like, I just think we all have to look in ourselves. We have to look in the mirror so often to make sure that people feel our gratitude. Period. Like, to me, that's where it all starts. I mean, you got to execute. 100%. You got to be good at your job, but that's where it all starts. So
I couldn't agree more.
Wrapping up here.
Yeah.
If you had to give, I would say, let's do this. I'm going to completely put you on the spot.
Sweet.
3 pieces of advice to realtors in this market right now. Like, if you gave them 3 tactical coaching assignments, what would you tell them to do right now?
Figure out your bare minimums as far as activity per week, and no questions asked. You have to do those 3 things every single week,
So
whether they're phone call.
Okay, give me, what would that be?
So mine are 75 outbound sales calls every week, 10 face-to-face meetings with business partners, VIP, stuff like that, and 5 new business meetings. So those are my 3. So new buyer, new seller, whatever. Okay. Or if we've got, like, for our property management, a new owner, new landowner, whatever. So that's the first thing. The biggest thing is that. 2, start running a P&L. Even if you're a one-man shop, run a P&L. What we have found, as you probably know in coaching, especially coaching realtors, they don't know their money. They're horrible with their money. If you have a P&L, it consistently it forces you to look at your money day in and day out. That's where a lot of realtors get in a lot of trouble, because the market goes like this and they just spend. And then when the market makes even the slightest bit of a turn, they can't stop spending because they have no clue where their money's going. And the last thing is, have some sort of daily meeting. Again, I said it earlier, it was like, if you're a single person, take 15 or 20 minutes to just sit down with some sort of sheet with every deal on it and just organize yourself every single morning. The more you can do that and create those top 3 or 4 things that you have to get done every single day, the quicker you'll be able to scale this thing to where you can build a team and really start to scale a business.
Love it. And then my final one is 3 tactics that you would want from a lender in communicating, not even communicate, in working with you. Could be existing relationships. It could be someone that's, could just, I don't want to say it's just execution of a loan, but you look at how long you've been doing this, how many times you've dealt with lenders, even your own. What are the things where you're just like, if you did these 3 things, you got a much better chance of working with realtors? By the way, it could be driving them nuts and calling them every week. I mean, I don't know.
No, I like hearing from them once a month. I don't need to hear from you every week unless we have a deal in process. So communication is huge. If you don't have a deal in process, call them once a month. If you do have a deal in process, call them once a week. Honestly, I like a lender that tactically sits down with me and talks through our businesses, right? So I want to know your processes. I want you to know mine. Right. So once we get past about the first week or so, Rachel's my point of contact, my director of ops. So I want to sit down. And so if you're talking tactically, sit down and have those tactical conversations with each one of your realtors. Hey, tell me about your process. Again, kind of goes back to listening. If somebody asks me about my process, I'm more than happy to tell them about it. Right. But how many people actually ask me that question? Very few. So those are the first 2. And then, man, transparency is really the big one. Just being fully transparent. If you can't get a deal done, just tell me. I don't need to go through the rigmarole of maybe we can do this and maybe we can do that. If you can get it done, great. If you can't, you can't. But just tell me on the front end, so there's no surprises on the back.
You'd rather have clarity and confidence on not being able to execute than clarity and,
Yeah.
hope.
Well, it also, I think the next 3 deals I sent to that guy that told me he couldn't get the deal done, because I'm like, thank you, dude. That meant a lot to me. I'm going to send you everything from here on out, So it makes it deepens the relationship a ton, in my opinion.
Awesome. Well, Alan, thank you. I'm hopeful everybody, this thing's called Impactful Thoughts. Hopefully these thoughts were impactful. So I know in general, with everything that you guys are doing at Impact, I mean, it's about freedom through community, through consistency, through wealth creation, right? So I'm a huge fan of everybody that's involved. If anybody has any questions about it, I believe it is, I always get screwed up here. I believe it's admin at Impact Elite Coaching. Sound right?
That's correct.
.com.
That's correct.
So admin at impactelitecoaching.com. And, Alan, huge, appreciate this time, and hopefully people watch this and get something from it, and we'll talk to y'all next time. So Alan, thank you, my man.
Great. Thanks, Hunter. Good to see you, bud.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you both.
All right, we good?
Thank you.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much.
All right, Mr. Huggins. I'll see you later, brother.
Dude, great to see you, brother. Hey,
You too.
seriously, thank you for those wrecks in Napa last year. We ended up signing up for Davis. That's been our favorite one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just there
Oh, were you really?
like 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Do you do any of their member stuff, or do you just, is that kind of your go-to?
I never go to it. If I were you, I probably would. I never freaking join all those things, and I never show up for them. So,
That's awesome.
anyway.
All
right,
great to see you, brother.
You too. See you later.
See you soon.